shattered to unbreakable. Listen here, sweet sister. Whether you think you have one little crack or you are shattered into a billion pieces, this podcast is going to give you the resources, tools, and skills to help piece yourself back together to form a beautiful, unique, solid, and unbreakable masterpiece. You are listening to Shattered to Unbreakable, the Reclaim Podcast. Let's talk. All right, welcome back to another episode of Shattered to Unbreakable. I'm your host, Brandi Babin, and I have a special guest on today, Ashleigh Seeley. Hey,
Hello.
Ashleigh.
Hello.
So, Ashleigh is my wellness and fitness, health and wellness coach. She has the alphabet after her name, so she has lots and lots of certifications, and she knows what she's talking about when it comes to everything health and fitness. And it is one of the ones that you guys asked for when I did a poll of what do you want to hear more of on the show. So we are going to be talking about some of the myths that are out there in the health and wellness world. And social media does not make it easy because they just give you more myths and they try to get you to pay attention by scaring you or shocking you or whatever. So Ashleigh's going to bust 3 of the main myths that we have been talking about, even with me. Like, I've even told her, hey, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, and I'm seeing this. And she's like, girl, that is not even a thing. And if for those of you that know or don't know, my degree was in kinesiology and I was a personal trainer for 10 years. So I even know what I'm talking about, and I still was falling prey to these myths. So let's dive right in. Ashleigh, I do want you to say a little bit about you, where you are, and like you train me virtually. Basically, you're not there, so it is possible to hire Ashleigh through, taking pictures and feedback and videos that way, and she'll give you videos if you don't know how to do a certain lift or whatever. So you're hireable no matter where people are, which is really exciting. But tell them about you and what you do and why you love it.
Right. Okay. So I am a gym owner. My husband and I own Trapper Fitness in Craig, Colorado. We're going on our 10th year of gym ownership. I mostly specialize in nutrition and bodybuilding, but I've coached everything from basketball athletes to wrestling to my most recent, I've taken on the minor league hockey team that's here in town. And I am very passionate about what I do, especially when it comes to the nutrition portion of it, because women, I would say about 95% of the women I see, we're not eating enough for what we're doing in our daily activities, let alone for what we're doing in the gym. If you're used to working out and all things like that. And if you're a wife and a mom, you're busy, you need to be making sure you're fueling your body for what you're trying to accomplish. So that's my favorite part of my job, is just watching the transformation by actually feeding the client, telling them what to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I love the training too, but when it comes down to their nutrition, I get a little bit nitpicky, and it's for a reason, because you will see the results if you stick to it. And so that's just really rewarding, and seeing women, not just women, but all sorts of athletes reach those goals is just really rewarding.
Absolutely. I just did a post. I asked Ashleigh to fix my butt because it lost its air. It deflated and was hanging, and I said, fix it, put some air back in it. And so we've been working on my butt. And you did a good job, Ashleigh. The butt's coming along.
You did the work.
And she also trained me before my pageant, and I did win best in swimsuit. So you've also trained a national beauty queen title holder. So she's got a lot under her belt. So that's actually a good thing to lead right into, is calories. That's one of your first myths that you talked about, was calories in, calories out. What do we eat and when? So talk to us a little bit about the myth of calories in, calories out.
So while normal science will say calories in, calories out, yes and no to a certain extent. So say you have a middle-aged client come in and they're like, well, I don't eat anything until 8 p.m. at night because I'm so busy and yada, yada, yada. We all have our list of things we got to get done throughout the day, and sometimes we forget to eat. So what's happening during that time when you're not eating, your body goes into kind of a starvation mode, and it's starting to hang on to all the fat that it can because it doesn't know when it's going to get fuel next. And that's just normal, physiology, how your body is wired to survive if you were to be
Mm-hmm.
out stranded or something like that. So your body's telling you to go in this starvation mode and you're not eating till 8 o'clock at night, right? So what's happening? You're retaining fat. You're wondering why you're retaining all this fat when you're only eating once a day. Well, you've slowed
Yeah.
your metabolism down so much, and your body's like, oh, I got to hang on to everything I possibly can in order to survive. Well, yes, calories in, calories out, usually, I would agree with, but if somebody's metabolism has slowed that much, then we know we have to revamp it by fueling it very often throughout the day so that we
Right.
keep that blood sugar at a very steady level. We don't want it to spike too high and we don't want it to drop too low. So if it's at a
Right.
steady level, that metabolism is going to keep rolling. Your muscles are going to be fueled, and a lot of times you're burning fat within those time periods.
Yeah, I love that. It's important. And this will kind of roll into myth number 3, but we can rearrange the order. But before I was working with you, I wouldn't remember to eat. Like, and I don't really get hungry until my blood sugar is so low that I'm like getting hot and clammy and jittery.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm about to pass out. Then I'm like, "Oh yeah, I didn't eat." I didn't even have the natural body signals to be like, I'm hungry until it was like, I'm going to go ahead and shut down completely. And then I would, since my blood sugar was low, I would eat something high in sugar to put it back up. So I was just wrecking my metabolism basically. And I started to notice cellulite being retained in my nether regions, but it was still flat cellulite. It didn't look good. And people are always like, oh, whatever, you don't have any cellulite. I'm like, well, interestingly enough, even though I'm super skinny, I had tons of cellulite because my body, like you said, was like, I don't know when we're going to eat again, folks. So anything she does put in your body, everybody store it anywhere you can. So I did have had some fat in my stomach area that was rolling over my jeans, and I had some cellulite and fat in my thighs and my butt and in the back of my arms. And now that fat is gone, but you make me eat like 7 times a day. So I have timers on my phone, and that's something you guys can do. Like if some of you are like, I want to eat more, but I just forget, like set timers on your phone. I have a timer for every time I'm supposed to eat, my phone starts going off. And so then I'll remember. But yeah, it definitely has made a difference, not only in how my body looks, but how I feel and like my focus throughout the day. And I don't get the sugar highs and lows
Mhm.
anymore. So it's definitely a big deal. And then I haven't talked to you about this really, but what is the difference like when we are on our cycle versus, I know you talked about this as far as what cellulite looks like, but diet wise, is there any difference in how we crave food or metabolize food when we're in different parts of our cycle?
Yeah, so that's a great question. A lot of times, for me, and everybody's different, for me, it's like the week leading up to my period where I'm like super hungry, super grouchy. And then once it hits, it's like, but yeah, so typically if women are having cravings of like chocolate or things like that, I'll tell them just eat the chocolate. Like
Yeah.
it's fine.
Give
But
your
if
body what it wants.
if someone has like maybe addiction to sugar or something, I'll program more fruits and fresh things leading up to the period and through the
Okay.
period. Because you think
Okay.
about it, your body is like ridding itself of a lot of toxins during that time. And
Mm,
so an antioxidant diet is going to help you kind of revamp.
got it. Yeah,
But
I do love fruits.
that could be a whole other podcast
Okay.
in itself. Just hormones are crazy.
Yeah, part 1 is this. We'll do part 2, the cycle. We'll just call it the cycle. Okay,
And
so
then,
well,
yeah, go ahead.
you go.
I was just going to note that, like, you may notice, like, leading up to your period, you're weaker. I know you've mentioned that a couple of times.
Yep.
You're leading up to that phase in your cycle where you're just kind of, and for most women, it's like that week after your period, you're going to feel the strongest, you're going to feel the best, most energized. And so that's just something to keep in mind, like fuel for those for those days when you have a lot of energy. You're going to be burning a lot more.
That's a good point. Yeah, I just did a podcast last week on prioritizing your schedule, and it actually is making me think, like, if you know you're going to have your period a certain week, don't overcommit to things that week. Like, wait till the week where you're feeling really good, or if you do start your period and you have some things around the house that are going to drain you, just put them off one more week and you're going to have more energy, and then you don't have to feel guilty about it. Okay, so that's good. And then you also talked about, so cellulite was interesting for me because I was like, I didn't have it, got more prominent when I was, I guess, what I thought was bulking, which we'll also talk about bulking for women. But in the bulk phase of gaining muscle or muscle gains, I noticed that I started to get some cellulite on my butt. And I was like, this is not going to be good in a bikini, Ashleigh. What is happening? What do I do? And so you told me that if I'm not eating enough, like you said earlier, my body's going to hold on to fat, especially if I'm exercising more than what I'm used to, but not eating. And so you had been trying to get me on nutrition the whole time I was doing those gains, and I kept fighting you on it. And then finally I was like, all right, all right, all right. I'll eat as much as you tell me to eat. And then I noticed a huge difference. But you said that the cycle always also has an effect on cellulite. So talk about that a little bit. Cellulite. Let's talk about cellulite.
So estrogen plays a huge role in cellulite. The higher the estrogen, well, everybody's different, but here's the thing. If you're estrogen dominant, and you haven't maybe fueled your body adequately, you'll probably notice a lot more cellulite than if you would have.
Okay.
Cellulite has a lot to do with water retention as well.
Mm.
Leading up to your period, me personally, I retain a lot of water up until like the second or third day of my period. So there are times I will look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, I hope my period starts soon because I can see cellulite in the mirror in my butt leading up to my period, and in my legs. I have some big old legs, but they look bigger leading up to my period because I hold a lot of water.
Okay.
And a
Got it.
way you can combat that a little bit is make sure you're drinking plenty of water, but also make sure you're getting your electrolytes. So your potassium, magnesium, sodium, and kind of your minerals. And a way to do that is you can put a pinch of Celtic salt, it's gray Celtic salt, in your water and you can drink it. I just, in the morning when I wake up, I take a pinch of it and I put it right on my tongue, and then I just take a drink of water, and that's my intake for the day.
Okay.
And you can't really overdo it too much. You can also replace your regular salt with it, like if you're salting
Okay.
your meals and things like that. But that's going to help the water actually get into your cells so that
Mm.
the cells can function properly, right? So the water goes into the cell instead of staying in between the skin and the muscle. So if you're dehydrated, water is going to sit in between your skin and it's not actually getting into the cells.
Gotcha. I remember when I tried the 75 hard thing and I was drinking too much water and actually
Mm,
got dehydrated because I was
mm-hmm.
drinking too much water. It was just
Yeah.
flushing right out. And so when I did my 3-day fast that was water only, the electrolytes is what saved me. They were so important. So gray Celtic salt, where can people get that?
So I get mine off Amazon. You can just order it right off Amazon. If
Okay.
there's a natural grocers probably has it. I live in Craig.
Okay.
There's no natural grocers.
Right.
A
Over
lot of
here you could probably
people,
find it.
yeah, right. A lot of people also use pink Himalayan pink salt,
Yeah, that's
but
what I have.
they're finding a lot of metals and plastics in those salts because
Okay.
most of them come directly from China.
Gotcha.
So the newest, most recent, best option is the gray Celtic salt.
Okay. Gray Celtic. I need to order that because I've just been using pink Himalayan and lemon. But I'll order some of that as soon as we get off of here. All right, perfect. And then you were talking about dry brushing, which I've heard of that. So talk about dry brushing a little bit for cellulite.
So for cellulite, a lot of times if you have a lot of toxins in your system, it shows up in our skin, right? And so those toxins can make cellulite more evident. You can see it better. So what dry
Okay.
brushing does, you basically find like a horsehair brush, not a horsehair
Okay.
brush from like a, not from like a tack store. I'm talking like the
Right.
bristles are like some sort of organic bristle, right?
Okay.
And what you'll do is you'll just brush your skin in areas of cellulite. It's just dry brushing. You don't put on any oil or lotions or anything like that. And what
Okay.
that does, it improves your circulation. And the circulation through the skin will help push out the rest of those toxins, along also with your water intake and your hydration and things like that. But those are things you don't think about when you just walk past a mirror and you're like, ew. You
Yeah.
think of it as just like fat, which to some extent is true, but there's things that you're doing or can do better to
Mhm.
make it less noticeable or
Yeah. And it's counterintuitive. Like when you told me, well, if you're noticing cellulite, you need to eat more. And I did notice, and it probably was during a period where I was leading up to my cycle, but I did notice that it went away after I started eating more and more frequently and better foods, obviously. And then I haven't tried dry brushing yet, but I've heard about it and I've heard that it's great for not only cellulite, but just like you said, skin and lymph nodes and just clearing toxins out of your body.
yeah,
And then you also talked about collagen in
your
your
skin.
document that you sent me. Yeah.
Yeah, collagen. So as we age, and it's again different for everybody. But I think when I hit about age 33, I started noticing my skin was changing.
Mm,
Collagen is basically the building blocks for your skin, right? And we can supplement with that. You can supplement with it and you can buy topical lotion. And what's that going to do is going to help you firm up your skin. It's good for your joints. And I do a multi-type collagen. There's 4 different types, and I do the multi so that I'm getting every type of collagen. And I don't know off the
okay.
top of my head which is better for joints and which is better for skin. But I just buy a multi collagen and it has all 4 forms in it.
Okay.
I do notice when I skip taking it or I've lapsed in ordering my supplement that the skin around my belly is really
Mm,
loose. Or I notice more like wrinkles in my face. Right now, I've taken my collagen almost every day for the last month, but when I don't see those lines,
I know about lines, believe me.
so yeah,
I
those
got a
are
few years on you.
just a few tips and tricks to help with the appearance of that cellulite.
I
If you
love
can
that.
take care of your skin, have more elasticity in it, which is produced by the collagen,
Yeah,
it'll help.
absolutely. Okay, so one more, and this is one we both have heard a million times, and it is so irritating. But the bulking thing, I don't want to look like a man, which I have some
Yeah.
funny stories I'll share at the end, but tell the people, Ashleigh, how hard is it for a woman to look like a man?
Okay, so there's like this stigma, right? Women, and it's getting better. Like women didn't used to want to lift like at all. And because but we're going to get bulky, right? Okay,
Yeah,
let me tell you how much you have to eat in order to get bulky. I'm talking over 4,000 calories a day, and you're working out, an hour and a half, 5 days a week, you know,
right.
like you would have to eat a tremendous amount to get bulky. Now, if you've already, say you're kind of fluffy, and we've all been there, and you're going to the gym and you're lifting, but not eating right, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might appear more bulky, but you're not like muscly, right?
Right.
So there's a difference there.
Yeah.
However, if you are eating right and you've got a little bit of fluff and you're going to the gym, you're probably going to notice more muscle tone, right? It's more visible muscle. You're not most of the time you're not actually building a tremendous amount of muscle. It's tissue that was already there. It's just more visible because you're losing fat and you're tightening up your skin and things like that. But no,
Yeah,
to get bulky, I mean, it takes decades. And just to
it's
give you,
effort.
yes, just to give you kind of a picture of that, y'all can visit my Instagram sometime and you can see my progress photos from 2017 to now. We're now in 2025, right? I had my last son in 2016. I started my nutrition and bodybuilding journey in 2017. At that time, I looked, in my opinion, very disgusting. So I was nursing him, right? And I swear it sucked the life out of me. I wasn't eating enough. I was going to the gym 7 days a week thinking I was doing my body some good. And I look back on pictures now and I'm like, wow, I look like I don't know, like I'm on drugs or something. And so at that time in like 2016, 2017, I weighed about 116, 117 pounds. Okay. Hold that in your brain. Fast forward, 3 bodybuilding preps, a couple of mock show preps where I kind of went through some stuff with a coach of mine, and then just kind of doing things actively, some jujitsu tournaments and things like that. So fast forward to now, remember the 117 pounds to now 137 pounds. That's 20 pounds of muscle in what, 8 years?
Yeah.
So there's some perspective. When I said it takes decades, and I don't know, maybe Brandi can tell me if I look bulky or not, but when I said it takes decades, it literally does. Like, I mean, it literally does.
Yeah, I don't think you look bulky. You do look like you bodybuild, but it's not like, I mean, I think people get the idea of like women who
So let
they
me
really
just
have like so much muscle that they look like they could be a dude.
Yeah, so let's put just a little thing in there so there's no stigma. Natural bodybuilding, I don't do any steroids or anything like that. So it's very hard
Right.
for women to look bulky if they're not, using performance enhancing drugs or HRT or TRT. You're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
look bulky by working out 5, 6 days a week,
Yeah.
especially if you're not eating around the 2,000, 3,000, 3,500 calorie range.
Right. And it is perspective. Like, I know I've talked to some men who are like, I don't want my woman to have visible muscle. I want her to look like a woman. And that's something I've heard from guys. And they're like, I would never date you because you are too muscular. And I'm like, really? Okay. And then there are other guys who are like, no, I need my woman to look like she goes to the gym. So
Right.
it also depends on just who you're around and what their perspectives are and what they see as feminine or not feminine. I was my funny story is I was flying to Florida to see my sister and I was at the bar at the airport and this guy was hitting on me and he kept asking me the same question over and over again. I was like, you either have a memory problem or you're really nervous. That I was telling my sister's husband about it, and the guy next to me was like, "Well, if you don't want to get hit on, you could just say you just finished your sex change operation." And I was like,
My word.
"Are you are you saying that I look masculine?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, you got the biceps for it. You could totally pull that off." And I was like, "I am 115 pounds. I don't, and I'm 5'3". I don't know how I look like a dude in any way, shape, or form, or how I could pass for saying that I just finished a sex change from a man to a woman. If that if he was that small, if this is a man that's 5'3", 115 pounds, like if you want to become a woman, go for it. Like you're already halfway there. Holy cow. So anyway, I just thought, oh my gosh. And then like a month before that, somebody had mentioned something on my this is before I started working out with you. On my Instagram, they were like, if that woman isn't a man, somebody marry her. And I was like,
What?
what do you mean? Do I look like a man? Like I could be a man? I'm so confused. So I don't know if I just have a strong jawline or what, but
It's the biceps.
whatever. But in my opinion, femininity doesn't have to be like fluff. I think it's beautiful to have evidence that you take care of your body, I guess is how I see it. But I'm also a kinesiology major, so I obviously find a fit body more attractive in men and
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
And I don't know if so figure out what bulk is to you. Like Ashley, you sent me something that I really liked on Instagram where the lady was talking about how you can't build muscle and lose fat at the same time. You have to pick one and then go into phases. So you and I have been doing gains. So I'm gaining muscle and I might be gaining a little bit of fat, but I'm gaining. And then when it comes to swimsuit season, we're going to pull back on the gains and start cutting to give that more toned look. So that's something that I think people need to really keep in mind because people are like, well, I want to get toned. So what should I do? And I'm like, well, first you got to lose the layer of fat over the top of it. And then you probably already are.
Right. Yeah. Just like I was saying, when you start working out and eating right, you're losing that fluff, right? And so you have more visible muscle. It's tissue that was already there, but you're cutting off the fat. So, and then from there, you can build. You can build depending on the athlete or depending on the woman or what type of client we're dealing with. Guys can build super, super fast.
Right.
It's insane. That
Yeah,
sometimes throughout my, career, I'm like, dang, that's not fair.
I know.
And a guy builds like 22 pounds of muscle since May to October. And I'm like, how in the actual heck?
Yeah.
That would take me, well, I just told you, it took
8
me 8
years.
years. So,
Which is a good point. Like it does take testosterone for a woman to get
oh,
that big. Like you were saying earlier, it's if you're naturally just working out, you're not going to bulk unless you're going to start supplementing testosterone because women just
right.
don't naturally have that.
Women just don't have it. And once you hit a certain age, perimenopause is hitting earlier and earlier now. And that's due to the fact that our food sources aren't great,
Hmm.
and just other contributing factors that we won't get into because that's a whole nother thing. But
It is.
just women are hitting that menopause a lot earlier. And
Mm.
perimenopause can actually hit up to 8 years before you're even in menopause. And so if you
Wow.
think about it, you can be all over the map 7 to 8 years before you even hit menopause. And then menopause hits, and then you have to go through all that. So,
That sounds lovely.
I mean, a woman in her 30s, testosterone, I mean, it's just not there unless you're, you know, using TRT to build muscle. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. And before I know we're taking forever, but I like this topic obviously. But I do want to bring up one myth that you didn't put on your list that I would always run into is spot training. People are like, I only want to lose the fat around my belly. Well, that's actually not possible to spot
right,
train fat.
right. I mean, there is a very common misconception with, oh, I want my stomach to look better or my legs to look better or whatever, but fat moves around, right? It's like you can't necessarily target like your glutes, especially if you are not eating for what you are doing. And this is proven time and time again. I mean, you guys can research it wherever you want. Just Google it. It'll be there. Yeah, to spot train, it just, what's the point?
Right.
What's the point? Especially if you want to look symmetrical and feel good, just work every body part. It only
Yeah.
makes sense. It's only going to help you with your longevity. It's only going to help you with your strength. So, yeah, don't waste
Right.
your time spot training. Now, there are extra exercises that if will help, but it's impossible to actually focus on one spot, right?
Right. Yeah. You got to do it all, baby. If you want to lose the fat in your stomach, you got to lose it everywhere. It's just how it goes. Oh my gosh. All right. Is there anything else that you want to leave the listeners with? They just said, I want to learn more about nutrition, health, and wellness.
Yeah, so If you don't know where to start, you can start with like a macro calculator, a very general thing. Say you don't have time or energy or money to spend on it right now. Find a macro calculator, and a macronutrients are your carbs, fats, and protein. You know, your big blocks of nutrients that you need in order to survive, right? And so you would put in your weight and your goal weight and all that, and it'd give you like an example macros in grams of each of those that you should hit every day. And those are free calculators you can start with. If you're
Okay.
still lost, talk to someone or hire a coach. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a coach. I've had a couple different coaches, and I can just say that it has added to my experience level, and they've poured into me, and I'm able to share it with other people. So,
I love that. Yep, Ashleigh's for hire. She
and
doesn't
you
have that
got,
much space, so.
and you must eat.
And you must eat. If you want to lose weight, you have to eat. It's so counterintuitive, but you have to. And you got to eat the right stuff.
All my plans are custom, so they're made for the client based on their goals and even their blood type. So I like to know that, because some blood types handle different macronutrients a different way than like, so for example, I'm A, my husband's O. I can eat grains all day long. My husband cannot.
Be positive,
Whoop, whoop.
because I'm so positive all the time. All right, perfect. Well, thank you. And guys, give Ashleigh a call, even if it's just for a consultation, but she is amazing. And I know you don't have a ton of time to take on like a lot of clients, so you better be the first to the door, or you're not going to get in.
Yeah, we can do online if you need it. And that's trapperfitness.com.
Okay, perfect. I'll put it in the show notes too.
Cool.
Well, thank you. I hope this is what you guys wanted. It's definitely, I learned a lot from having Ashleigh train me, and can check out before and after pictures on Facebook and Instagram. It's been a fun ride. We're in phase 2, and she's literally killing me. But I
You're
think
doing the work. You're doing the work.
it's gonna be great when swimsuit season comes along. So stay tuned for summer pictures.
Woo!
I know. All right. Well, I love you, Ashleigh. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. Again, Ashleigh Seeley with Trapper Fitness at trapperfitness.com. I'm your host, Brandi Babin. I'll see you next week. Stay sparkly. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I just wanted to remind you about the resources we have on the reclaimstrategy.com. That is Reclaim University with free downloads. It's the Reclaim Guidebook, access to Kintsugi classes and events. So go ahead and take a look. Also, please share this podcast with anybody that you think might need to hear these messages. And if you haven't already and you think we deserve it, give us a 5-star rating. That just helps our reach. So I love you guys. Stay sparkly, and we will see you next week.